Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 470. Today's date is May 24, 2026. It's been almost like a night at 10:30 p.m. All right, let's just jump into the question. Let's go. All right. So, question is, how will you prevent privacy? Okay, that's a really good question. All right. Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question, and why am I asking this question to myself? I want to build a app called My Artifact. What exactly is this application? Well, when you write the diary, you cannot able to be write the diary the way that you want it to. Why? Because writing a diary is a bit more difficult. You need a pen, you need a paper, you need a constraint, you need a convenient. Okay. And because of this thing, very less people are actually wrote the diary. And writing a diary is a very essential process. It's a self-reflection process. You actually connect with yourself when you wrote the diary. But unfortunately, because of this constraint and things and that, almost no one write the diary. But what if we could change the process from writing a diary to recording a diary, like a audio recording a diary? This would be kind of like really good. Okay. Like basically, when you record the diary, you don't need a paper, you don't need a pen, you don't need a convenience. You just press audio and just press a recorder and kind of like a said everything. So this is kind of like a things, because if you do this thing, it kind of like a really good. Because I am doing this thing. I call this artifact. I am doing this thing for past almost like 11 year. I am doing this thing for every single day. Because of this thing, it adds so much amount of value inside of me. The person that I became today and the person that I will become tomorrow, it is all because of artifact. The amount of value that I get from the artifact, I wanted to share this value to the people. How do I supposed to be share? By building an application. My application means my artifact. It's somewhat something like a YouTube platform. In YouTube, you kind of like simply upload your video, other people sees your video. In artifact, same. You record your artifact, other people kind of like simply upload your artifact, other people kind of like listen your artifact. There is only one catch, is that key your username is always kept hidden. Like your name is Saurabh Bauthare, like my real name is Saurabh Bauthare, but my artifact handle name would be Prozac 1943 or something else. So this would kind of like making sure that key my privacy always been hidden. Now regarding about like basically this is kind of like app idea. Now before I wanted to build this application, I wanted to know all the possible consequences. What might when a wrong thing happened? How do I supposed to be execute this application? Every possible scenario, mostly worst possible scenario. So I went to ChatGPT. I kind of like simply tell my idea and suggest like tell it that he suggests me hundreds of possible consequences in question format regarding about this app idea. So ChatGPT kind of like suggests me hundreds of questions. This is one of those questions. Now regarding about the question, ah ah
causing sensitivity in my nose. The dentist recommended me to use Sensodyne lately.
all right. So okay. All right. So question is that key, how do I protect the privacy? Yeah. So first of all, let's just understand what am I protecting? Because it is very much essential to understand if I'm giving the protection, I have to be understand who am I giving the protection and for what purposes. Okay, first of all, now people are kind of like a recording a diary or recording an artifact. Okay, now basically recording a diary or recording an artifact is a very personal thing, and people will kind of like a make them kind of like a private. Okay, yeah, which is really good. Okay, yeah, but the problem is that na ki it's like that na ki let me tell you. Okay, you think like a like people are at the beginning, people are kind of like a bit really hesitate. I also bit really hesitate too, because when I started recording artifact, I don't want to share this artifact. Literally almost like a 9 year of this artifact is kind of like a store in my hard drive. Okay, yeah, literally 9 year. I never really been uploaded in the YouTube platform, nothing like at all. After kind of like a 9 year, I realized that ki, dude, like basically is this thing that ki, I have to be upload my artifact on YouTube platform, because like it's a very much essential. Okay, because when I like basically when I record the artifact, I didn't really kind of like a record artifact for a app for one day I will kind of like a become app. No, I was just kind of like recording artifact. Okay, and because of it's a very personal thing, I wanted to kind of like a make it kind of like a as secure as possible. Okay, so I don't want to share this thing, that and that. Okay, so basically even if like a I didn't really share my artifact, why does kind of like a user will kind of like a share their artifact, their story? Yeah, that's a really good question. Okay, so basically this thing, we are human, and whatever we do, it depends on kind of like other people. Okay, okay, let me kind of like tell you the simple thing. Okay, let's just understand. Okay, you are kind of like a your age is 30, you are doing a job, you all your friends are actually getting married. Obviously you wanted to. Why? Because you wanted to part of those group, you wanted to part of the people. Okay, like basically this thing na ki we are human, and we always kind of like a simply wanted to be part of something. Why? Because we are human, we are evolved through surrounding situation, we evolve through living together. When we live together, we kind of like a something is this thing that ki evolve together. Okay, like when your neighbor or all your friends are actually bought the car, you also buy the car. Okay, basically this thing, our activity is not kind of like a depend on what we want, it depends on we have to do this because everyone does that, and everyone does this the same thing. Like basically 90% of the people chose engineering college in my country. Okay, why? I also chose this thing. Why is that? Because of that key, I thought that key everyone doing it, that I also do that thing. Everyone wanted to be part of the kind of like a part of the group. Okay, now when you understand this concept, now let's try to social media. Okay, now basically in the social media, you recently got married. Okay, you recently got married, you are uploading your photos about your getting married on Instagram platform, right? Why? Yeah, why do you upload your kind of like photos on Instagram platform, your wedding photos on Instagram platform? Why? Because I wanted to show them that yeah, I get married. Yeah, simple thing. It's not really that kind of like some crazy things. It's not really kind of like a judgment things and at all. Everyone doing it, that I also do that thing. Okay, yeah, like everyone get married, everyone kind of like uploading their marriage photo. Why not I do that thing? I will definitely gonna do that thing. Okay, so basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing, that na ki social media is a kind of like a thing that na ki when everyone does that thing, I will do that thing. Okay, yeah. Also, people are humans are a kind of like a such a thing, they wanted to showcase that what does they have, what kind of like a quality that they have, and they wanted to showcase. Example, you are going to a long trek, not long trek, like maybe kind of like a long drive with all your friends. Okay, in a car. Okay, so basically is this thing that ki you might think that ki, dude, I will gonna play my song because my song is kind of like really good. So you are started playing your song. But everyone is kind of like thinking that ki, my group should supposed to be hear my song, like my playlist or things and that. Why is that? Why we have that craving that he like I have something that we should supposed to be kind of like something I should supposed to share and things like that. Because humans, okay, yeah, we want validation. Our existence is kind of like a depend on validation, and we always seek the validation directly, indirectly. Yeah, we are, and that's why we just kind of like do something that key different out of the kind of like things and that. That's why we kind of like share the post on Instagram platform or YouTube video or Facebook or whatever it is. This is kind of like things that we do. Okay, now basically this thing, that's why we kind of like simply upload our content on social media platform and things and that. Now let's talk about the artifact. Why does people will kind of like share their artifact? Because photos are okay, yeah, like basically just a photos, but sharing a artifact would be kind of like very different. Like basically I am kind of like sharing my story, sharing my entire life and things and that. Like like basically sharing a photo is okay, somewhat something, but sharing my life, like literally this would be kind of like a really crazy, right? Why would I supposed to do that? Yeah, definitely you will not gonna do that thing. Okay, then what exactly is this thing? What I'm trying to tell you is this thing. What if I'm gonna say is that ki your identity is kept hidden, you just tell your story. Okay, yeah, just do not mention your name and things and that. Okay, even if you mention the name, I will cut down the name, just tell your story. Then after that, would you share your story? You might think that ki no yaar, I will not gonna do that thing, because still it's my story. I don't want to share things and that. Okay, and this is definitely happened at the beginning. At the beginning, people might not gonna share their artifact. Why? Because of the hesitation. Important thing is that na ki at the beginning no one stand out, or no one kind of like a take charge, or no one kind of like a somebody that push further that ki I will gonna do this thing. Like basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. The why we upload photo is because of someone else uploaded their photos, their wedding photos and things and that. That's why I do that thing. Okay, basically is this thing, someone have to take the initiative. When someone take the initiative, then this does that, then chain reaction happened. Okay, this is a kind of like a thing. Okay, yeah. So basically early advantage, no one wants to kind of like somebody do as early. Why? Because people might scared on my platform that key will I able to share my artifact, so maybe kind of like things might be wrong and things and that. So this will gonna definitely happen. Okay, but probably is this thing that key I am kind of like uploading my artifact for last 10 year 11 year. I'm doing this thing which is actually uploaded on YouTube platform, all available publicly, right? So what I'm saying is that na ki my artifact are became the evidence of that ki if you share the artifact, nothing will happen wrong. Okay, and also is this thing, you might get little bit of something value. People might think that ki okay, because let me tell you one thing now, it's a very new category of content, artifact. Because sharing a video, sharing a photo, or sharing a song is a kind of like a somewhat something we resonate, we understand. Artifact is a kind of like a new piece of content, and people are very hesitate at the beginning, and this will definitely gonna happen. Okay, but once that people are kind of like a started doing, maybe kind of like initially just maybe one or two people started uploading, but that's it. I don't really need that much, just one or two people, they are uploading their artifact. I'm fine, because I'm not kind of like a believe in kind of like a somebody that I'm getting almost like a millions of user within a day. Definitely this will definitely not gonna happen. Okay, just maybe kind of like a one or two user, they are kind of like uploading their artifact and things and that I'm making sure that I will kind of like provide as much as better services to them, so that they would supposed to be feel really good, and they will definitely feel really good when they record the artifact. They feel really good, and when they feel really good, they will kind of like say, dude, use this application. It kind of like a feel really good, because let me tell you one thing now, this piece of kind of like a content is completely new. I am doing this thing and I understand how much value that it get, and I wanted to share this value. My platform is kind of like a sharing this value to the user. Obviously at the beginning people are kind of like a very reluctant, very hesitate to do this thing, but slowly people are kind of like a saying, because when they do that thing they will kind of like understand the value. Because let me tell you one thing now, it's a kind of like hesitation. It's not because of just a it's not just a kind of like a somebody that key, like should I supposed to upload my artifact or not. The hesitation start when you record the artifact, because it's a completely new thing. Like you click on the record, what do you supposed to be say, and even after you say, it's a kind of like a so fox it sound like a basically when I record my artifact, my first artifact is was, it is so kind of like a so awkward that I'm kind of like a listening my own artifact. It's just really awkward, but I still keep doing this thing because I understand the value and things and that. Okay, now basically in your context, okay, yeah, it's not just you might gonna hesitate, so do not upload your artifact. No, just listen other people what they are saying. Okay, and because of this thing, if you are kind of like listening other people thoughts, other people artifact, then you understand, you resonate. Like some people kind of like a recording artifact regarding about the breakup or things and that you resonate with this thing, because same thing happened with you and you wanted to share that moment, because we are human and we wanted to kind of like a sharing the moment. Okay, we want to share this thing and that. So in that particular process you just press the record button and just started sharing your thoughts and things and that. Okay, yeah. Now basically this thing, at early people, the people who are came early, they are very prime people for me, and I wanted to care them very much properly. I wanted to make sure that those people will not gonna share their name and things and that. Okay, and I wanted to make sure that I will kind of like provide my services as much as better. Okay, so that at the early stage, okay, I'm not expecting too much amount of user, but whatever the user that I'm getting, I'm kind of like making sure I'm giving them very best as services as possible. I'm gonna make sure that their artifact should supposed to be kind of like a secure and things and that. Okay, so how do I supposed to be secure their artifact? How do I supposed to give them privacy as much as better? The first thing that I already mentioned, the username. Okay, yeah, every username is a kind of like a login through Google, and their identity has always been kept hidden. Their username is a kind of like a something very different. Okay, this is the one thing. Another thing is that profile picture. Okay, yeah, profile picture is a kind of like a selecting the avatar. You cannot able to upload your kind of like a photo. No, you can kind of like a create your avatar. There is a kind of like a somebody avatar button. You create the avatar, and that avatar is actually became your profile photo. Okay, yeah, so that no one will gonna know who you are and things and that. Okay, third thing. Okay, when you record the artifact, when you press record the artifact, there is a warning screen actually appear. That warning screen says that do not mention your name or anything at all. When you kind of like listen this warning screen, you might understand, okay, I shouldn't supposed to be do this thing. You click understood, and then you started recording. Okay, yeah. Another thing, when you record the artifact, obviously you will kind of like not really sure what do I supposed to be talk. Okay, so there is a kind of like a question, it actually pop up. Okay, yeah. Regarding about the question, you have to give the answer. It's kind of like a way much easier for you to kind of like started recording artifacts, so that you would kind of like a feel really kind of like a somebody like a feel really kind of like a easy for you to record artifact. Okay, just started giving the answer. Okay, do not kind of like somebody talk about too much, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, this is kind of like a things. After you kind of like a record, okay, yeah, you wanted to publish. Okay, but before you wanted to publish, you have to listen your artifact. That is very much essential. Because of that, when you not listening your artifact and you just directly hit publish, like basically you cannot do publish. Okay, you have to be listen your artifact. That is a ultimate choice. Okay, because it's very essential. You have to listen your own artifact so that you would re-verify the kind of like a stuff that you said that you wanted to share this thing or not. Because let me tell you one thing: when you record the artifact, at the spur of the moment, you might gonna mention something, your name or things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Which is very much essential that user should supposed to listen his own artifact so that he would verify that ki, okay, like kind of like a said something kind of like a something good. I did not really mention anything, my name and things and that. I will proceed further. Or if you mention the name, you might save into the draft or kind of like a somebody kind of like edit that kind of like a things. Okay, at the beginning I might not have the edit feature. Okay, because of that na, I don't know how to do that thing. Okay, I'm not really good. I'm not a kind of like a developer. Okay, I'm kind of like a doing vibe coding to kind of like a create this application things and like that. So I'm not kind of like a provide this edit feature. Okay, but soon I will, when I will have the kind of like a resources and the people who have that thing, I will have that edit feature that user can kind of like a edit and cut down the stuff, the part that they don't want. I will gonna do this thing. Okay, but not in the beginning. Okay, in the beginning, if the people kind of like mention their name, they have to be save the draft or they might kind of like re-record the everything, because it's very much essential. Okay, like this is very much essential because of that, because of this thing na ki I know it's very much kind of like something very wrong. Okay, yeah, why not I have edit feature? I will have it, but not right now. Okay, yeah, maybe I'm kind of like uploading, maybe within a 6 month I will kind of like assembly have a new feature, that edit feature and things and that, but not right now. Okay, I'm making sure that na ki first of all I will get the kind of like a user and things and that. Okay, but before all those things I am kind of like making sure that people shouldn't supposed to mention their name. That's why people should supposed to listen their entire artifact, and when they are so sure that they didn't really mention their name or things and that, then they kind of like publish their artifact. Okay, this is a kind of like a thing. With the publish, you set the title, set the emotion button, and kind of like set the things. Okay, the amount of value that you get when you record the artifact, yeah, like when you record the artifact, you kind of like feel really good, but at the beginning you might kind of like feel really awkward. Yeah, and when you record the artifact, you will not gonna public. When you record, after kind of like a 2-3 days, you just save into the draft and you might not gonna upload this thing, or you might not kind of like record the artifact again. Why? Because it's very much awkward. Okay, but if you are still listening other people other people artifact, then you might kind of like suddenly realize that ki, okay, I should supposed to be do this thing. So yeah, okay, then after kind of like a couple of days, you might convince yourself that ki, okay, I should supposed to be try this thing, and then you might convince. Okay, it takes time. Okay, yeah, because when I started recording artifact, it took me almost like a 6 months to kind of like being really consistent. Okay, I also kind of like a very awkward when I record the artifact. It's a very natural process. Okay, but still after some sort of time you will kind of like feel really good, and when you record artifact you actually connect with yourself more, but it takes time, at least like a 2-3 months and things like that. Okay, now regarding about the privacy. Okay, yeah, so how do I supposed to make sure that username and things will not kind of like somebody reveal to the other people and things and that. Okay, so basically at the early I will gonna offer the stuff that I already mentioned, but after when I have resources, I will have even more kind of like somebody kind of like a things which are kind of like a make them privacy even more stronger. Now what is exactly that? Okay, first of all is that I will implement the AI would kind of like a simply transcript, and they will have edit feature that you could edit and trim out the particular segment that you don't want. One thing. Another thing, AI will also kind of like simply understand your artifact, and they will kind of like trim down the noun segment, like your name or things. At the spur of the moment you mention your name or your location, so your name, location, these are the noun. Okay, yeah, those are kind of like a automatically trimmed down. Okay, yeah, these are the thing. Another thing is that your artifact will kind of like simply compromise very much easily if your artifact is actually sharing at your location. Okay, so my responsibility is that your artifact should supposed to be kind of like simply kind of like a share in a such a place where you might not have any kind of like a similar kind of like a things, or maybe your voice might not kind of like a recognize. By the way, voice feature also enabled too, because of that key after maybe kind of like a when I will have resources, I will have a kind of like a AI voice cloning, that your artifact might have a kind of like a entire voice clone will gonna happen too. But this will happen when I will have resources, and it's a very kind of like a very complicated thing. Okay, yeah, it really required a kind of like a somebody that key higher some amount of processing speed, so things and that. So after that I will gonna implement AI voice cloning, but not at the beginning. Okay, your artifact will kind of like recommend to the such a people who is actually far away from you. If you are from Chandigarh, and probably is this thing that it's not really right for me to kind of like share your artifact from in the Chandigarh. No, I have to make sure your artifact should supposed to be shared outside the Chandigarh, like Amritsar or maybe something else. Okay, yeah. Okay, it depends on the language. Okay, yeah, because if you are kind of like speaking Punjabi language, then obviously is this thing that I shouldn't supposed to be share your artifact in Chandigarh, but I should supposed to be kind of like share your artifact or recommend your artifact to the such a people who understand the Punjabi and things like that. And obviously it's a Punjabi. I will not gonna share your artifact to the Maharashtrian people, because obviously Maharashtrian people doesn't really understand the Punjabi. Okay, but if you recording artifact in English, then it's a kind of like your identity will not gonna compromise. Why? Because of that, if you recorded artifact in English, then probably is this thing that you are higher chances that your artifact will kind of like recommend to the more and more places. Like basically if you're recording artifact, then your artifact will kind of like recommend to the US, Canada, Europe. Like basically if you speaking English language, the English is a global language. Okay, there are so many countries and so many people understand the English language too. So it's very much easy kind of like a thing, so that I would suppose to be recommend, and your identity will not gonna compromise that much sooner. So this is the kind of like a things that I will gonna do. So kind of like a privacy should supposed to maintain. Okay, there are so many kind of like a privacy layer too. Okay, yeah, things and that lot of thing. I actually think I have kind of like a lot of stuff, like basically this thing na, you cannot able to be hear artifact on speakerphone. You only and only listen your artifact on the headphone. Yeah, you cannot able to hear artifact on kind of like assembly on speakerphone. Why? Because artifact is a kind of like a thought process, and obviously you are listening someone thoughts, and this thought shouldn't supposed to be listened on speaker. Definitely not. You should supposed to be listened only and only in audio. Okay, another thing, my platform, my artifact is the only mobile device platform. There is no website, there is nothing at all. Like you cannot able to be go to the internet, search for artifact and kind of like a, no, it's not. Okay, like basically Facebook application and Facebook website, those are kind of like exist, but artifact does not. Artifact only exists in the mobile phone, that's it. It does not have any kind of like a website. It has a website, but it's not kind of like that na ki you kind of like accept and do the kind of like the same thing that you could do in mobile phone. No, it's not that. Okay, to kind of like simply why does kind of like have this thing? Because maybe it should supposed to be secure you as much as possible as it can. Okay, another thing is that na ki basically is this thing, yeah, these are kind of like a privacy feature. I will have so many privacy feature regarding about, I will try to secure you in every possible way. Okay, but one thing I'm actually focusing on that key, do not kind of like mention your name. Like I'm trying to focus on solving the problem before it even exists, and this problem actually solved by kind of like not sharing your detail. If you're not sharing your detail and things and that, then probably it's higher chance that your privacy will not going to compromise. So this is kind of like a things I'm actually focusing on that. All right, so this is it. I'm kind of like a little tired right now. I don't know why. It's because of heat maybe, but yeah. So this is it, and this is a kind of like all the privacy feature, and also I will have even more privacy feature I will gonna enable in the future too. But yeah, so this is it, and thank you.